So welcome everyone to our online service, and welcome today to our harvest. We've had people all through the week bringing tins and beans and pastas and flowers, and as I stand here in the church I can see it all. It's amazing the work that went in this week to building our harvest together. What we do this week is all of the goods are shared, so the tins and all the non-perishables are taken to a Brave Women's Refuge for mums and children who need help and support at this time. And all the perishables, our apples and pears and all the other delicious things here, are turned into treats in the gathering ground and soup that can be shared and distributed all across our community. So for all who made this possible, thank you so much. For Kevin and the music and the choirs, for Sarah and her team, for Lynn and Brian and the school. Man, so many people blessed us by what they did this harvest. And many of you may have taken part in our gift day. So if you've been aware of our parish announcements, we have taken the opportunity during the harvest to have a parish gift day. So an opportunity for people to maybe give a one-off donation on top of their regular contributions to the church, just to help us continue the level of ministries and grow as a parish. Today we're going to read a few words from Luke, and I'm going to offer some reflections on the nature of harvest. So let me read from Luke chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse 16. Then Jesus told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly, and he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, where will they be?' So it is with those who store up for themselves treasures, but are not rich towards God." This is the word of the Lord. Seems to me that every day is one of those international days of the something. And they used to be very sensible, but they're increasingly becoming obscure, unusual, and a little bit reaching. I did a Google and I asked the question, what international days happen in October and November? The first one that popped up was one called Love Your Red Hair Day. So for all your redheads out there, this is the day for you. Another one that made me laugh was Appreciating Baldness Day. Be bald and be bold. So there you go, not just redheads, those who like myself are moving towards the balding stage. Another one was National Sandwich Day. This one's brilliant because it's actually on my wife's birthday, so I know exactly what I'm going to make her for dinner that evening. Today, there are a couple today. One is to wear your gaudiest outfit day. And that's, most folk who were at church today were relatively tasteful. But there's one that's interesting, and it sits very well with the theme of the harvest. And it's the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. So the observance of that day can be traced back to the 17th of October, 1987. And that day, 100,000 people gathered in Paris at the same location where the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was signed in 1948. And they gathered to honour the victims of extreme poverty, violence and hunger, and to proclaim that poverty is a violation of human rights. And they affirmed the need to come together to ensure those rights are respected. And those convictions are inscribed in stone at the location where they met. And since then, people of all backgrounds, beliefs, social origins gather every October on the 17th to renew their commitment and to show solidarity with the poor. And one of the pioneers of that day was a priest called Father Joseph Rosinski. And for him, the eradication of poverty wasn't a political or a social thing, but a spiritual thing. It was his Christian obligation and calling. Every harvest, we give thanks for what we have. We affirm our abundance. We affirm the plenty that is our harvest. And we are thankful for the fruits of God's creation. And that's a really important place to start, because all of our discipleship starts with gratitude. We are thankful for what God has done for us, so our hearts become filled and consumed with the spirit of thanksgiving. Hence we use the phrase, harvest thanksgiving. There's that harvest song that we sing. You know the one, if you're at home, sing it with me. It goes, "For the fruits of God's creation, thanks be to God." We start with thankfulness. But that's not where our harvest stops. If that's where our harvest stops, we are doing nothing but putting the goods of our harvest into a barn. Our sense of gratitude is always meant to bubble into a sense of generosity. In our worldwide task of caring, God's will is done. In the harvest that we are sharing, God's will is done. That part of the hymn takes our harvest celebrations up to a whole new level. And to make those words ring true, we have to see beyond the beautiful, colourful displays of fruit to our responsibility as disciples. The responsibility that God places on each of us. Responsibilities to make the kind of harvest that we celebrate alive with meaning for the world. Alive with meaning for those who will sleep rough tonight. Alive with meaning for those who will go to bed hungry. Alive with meaning for the poor all around us. And alive with meaning for people in Iraq and Afghanistan and countries where we may never visit but who know violence all too well. The COVID-19 pandemic that has gripped the world in the past year has been tough for everyone. But in regards to poverty, COVID has reversed decades of progress in our fight against poverty and extreme poverty. According to the World Bank, between 88 and 115 million people are being pushed into poverty as a result of the crisis, and the majority of them in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. So may we, and may they know, that our world is not as God intended it. That in creation there is more than enough to go round if we can only share. And so in our plenty, it's not that we should waste time feeling guilty. No, we should be thankful and celebrate with gratitude what we have. Amen. But we should let that sense of gratitude turn into a desire to share and to bless the world in which God has put us. Our God, who stretched out the heavens, relies on us to care and gives us what we need to do just that. And so today we will take our harvest, and with it, let's seek to bless the world. Amen. Do you know, community who watch this online, the last year and a half, it's been such a blessing to be able to have church online. And I'm mindful that today we are winding that up. And who knows what the future brings. In our church services today, we had, between all of our services, almost 200 people here. We're so delighted to see people come back to worship. And we're delighted that you have been part of our spiritual virtual community. I hope you felt blessed by it. And we are thankful for what we have been able to do. And I'm thankful to Kevin, who has faithfully for a year and a half stood the other side of the camera from me, patiently listening to me preach this sermon, maybe for the third time. Blessings to you. And thanks be to God for what God has given us. Amen. Amen. Amen.
And the sunshine and song.